Hello, and welcome to Recruiting Hell. I'm glad you're here with us today. I'm your host, Rob Conlon. This is episode 11 of Recruiting Hell, and despite there not being any birds in the background like episode 10, we are back to our normal format from last week's crossover with Chris Zahn of Whiskey and Tacos. We'll actually be booking more guests for future episodes, and that's because you, the listener, really appear to enjoy that, so thank you guys for that feedback. Today, though, it is just me, and maybe it's just me for the last time unless there's an emergency. But either way, we're starting into our second block of 10 episodes. And we're starting into this block with a topic that I've wanted to do for a long time. Actually, this topic I've wanted to do ever since I did the trailer for the show and then episode 1 right after it. But I knew that this topic was something I couldn't just launch the show with. It wasn't a beginner topic. We had to build something around it first. So this topic was actually a major impetus for starting the show, and it's one that has been quite popular with and requested by listeners. So today's episode is all about scam jobs. Now, for this episode, keep in mind that this term, scam jobs, isn't just going to be encompassing the true scams. Now, we will call the true scams just that, scams. But many other opportunities appear to be legitimate jobs. But there are red flags that you're going to learn to see today that will help eliminate opportunities at companies that are guilty of false advertising for positions or those that give a very one-sided deal to their prospective employee or contractor, heaven forbid. As always, before we begin, for our new listeners, this is also the time where we remind everybody what Recruiting Hell is, why we call it that, and how it's our goal to escape to a better job and a better tomorrow. So recruiting hell is a term that I use to describe the frustration of job hunting in 2020. If you head to any major job site or employer, there are endless opportunities, but it has gotten more and more difficult to land those opportunities for the average person. Now, the whole goal of this show is to give you the tools to help you find a job that brings you both fulfillment and self-worth. Now, not everybody defines their self-worth on their job. But here in American culture, we place a heavy value on being a contributing member of society. And not hating what you do every day to pay the bills is, of course, a huge benefit to anyone. The whole goal of this show is to help you navigate through recruiting hell by avoiding the scam jobs. Hey, like today's episode, the bad employers, the too much work for too little pay, and the mental stress of being jobless or in a position that you absolutely loathe. We're here to help you keep your chin up after your 200th application this month with no response, your 50th rejection email this week, or a great opportunity deciding to ghost you. So in a nutshell, this show is about helping people. And if I can help just one other person out there land a new position and get them out of recruiting hell, I'll call it a win. Now that we're ready to go with the mission of the show, let's launch ourselves into scam land. First up is a type of scam job that is a true blue scam. And these have actually been showing up in searches as I get down to the bottom of the barrel for job options when I'm looking both for myself and for those that I'm looking to help find a position for. Now these, again, this is going to be a little low-hanging fruit to start us off with first, but I have a feeling that these are important to talk about because they are somewhat prevalent. And of course, they're right there. They're at that bottom of the barrel level. And of course, with so many people looking for work, they might just rise to the top every once in a while. These are the MLMs, the multi-level marketing jobs. This is Avon, Mary Kay, Party Light, Unique, LuLaRoe, just to name a few. Now, I could sit here and slam MLMs all day long. But we've got a lot more to cover in this episode on the harder things to spot with scam jobs. So for this first type of scam job, we're going to leave it with a 3-point checklist to identify this type of scam. Number 1, do they require an investment from you up front before you see a paycheck? This is a monster red flag. That's not how employment works. You should never be paying into something unless you have signed an agreement to be a franchisee. And even then, that's still something that I'm not a huge fan of myself. But franchising is something that is much more regulated, if you will, than MLMs. But if they require you to invest in them and send, $50, $1,000, whatever it might be, before you see a dime from them, that's red flag number 1. Number 2, Do they tout you as an independent business owner? And do they use terms like CEO of your own company, boss babe, and things like that? Question, listeners, if there is a male version of boss babe, I have no idea what it is. If you know what the male version of boss babe is, please send it to therecruitinghellpodcast@gmail.com. I'm genuinely curious. Number 3, do they ask you to either invest in or hold a certain amount of inventory so that you can create events around their brand to bring friends and other people to? Now, if you answer yes to any of these questions when you're looking at a job description, it is highly likely that the job you're looking at is an MLM and likely offers you no real benefit. This should throw more flags than the NFL refs do at the Raiders during an entire football season. Now, don't take my word for it, though. There are documents out there that these companies are required to put out, their income statements, basically, for the folks that work for them. And if you find those and you read those from, these multi-level marketing companies like LuLaRoe or Unique or whatever it might be, you'll often find that the top 1% of all their consultants make anything close to a living wage. These are the people you see driving the pink Cadillac for Mary Kay, the people who are going to the seminar for LuLaRoe or whatever. But this doesn't work for everybody. If the top 1% is the only one making the actual money, what are they making it from? Where is that money coming from? Well, it's coming from the other 99% with their uplines and all sorts of things like that. Everyone else in this type of situation loses money. Long story short, these are pyramid schemes, Ponzi schemes. You need a better job, not one that drains your resources and makes your friends and family hate you because you won't stop asking them to parties to buy overpriced leggings. Okay, so we hit the MLMs, and again, that's something of a soft pitch there. It's a bit of a warm-up, but I felt it was worth mentioning because the MLM jobs do lurk down there at the bottom of your LinkedIn and your Indeed job searches. They're there. Whatever site you're using, they're there. They're usually pretty easy to avoid because they get kind of avalanched under the rest of the job opportunities out there. They get buried by maybe better opportunities, but they also might get buried by opportunities that are much more insidious in hiding that they aren't a good deal for you, the job seeker. In other words, the MLMs are the easy to identify scams for the people who may fall for them, but there are scammier scams, if you will, that kind of fall on top of them and make sure that even some of the most swift of us can get into some trouble there. So that moves us actually on to one where I have some personal experience with this. Not necessarily because I was taken advantage by this scam. I detected that something was off, but I went to actually see it. And this revolves around something I mentioned a few episodes back. This type of job isn't quite a true scam, but it's really a perfect example of false advertising. So as I mentioned just a moment ago, a few episodes back, I was talking about one of our listeners. Her name is Jessica, and she connected with me on LinkedIn after I made some comments on a post that she made about detecting scam jobs. I'm going to briefly read her post here, and we'll analyze that a bit, and we'll read the response I left her because you need to hear that too. So Jessica says in her LinkedIn post she's looking for advice and guidance. And her post reads, "As I continue to apply for jobs in the field of marketing and advertising, I find myself met with a lot of scam companies with claims that they are offering growth, mentorship, hands-on experience, and vibrant work cultures, as well as advertising their work with partnerships at Fortune 500 companies. However, at the end of the day, these are just groups that are looking to sell for people to sell their products door to door and claiming that they're in the field of business-to-business marketing, but in reality, they're just looking for sales representatives. Sadly, I found myself in one of these positions thinking I was going to get a well-rounded and insightful experience into the industry of a marketing agency, but this was not the case." And then Jessica said she was looking for some guidance from marketing professionals on how not to fall into the traps of these companies and what are the telltale signs. Kind of sounds like this episode, if you will. So that's actually another thing that we've heard from you, the listener, the viewer, if you will, that this is something that is really an interesting topic to you. So let's unpack that. You've seen these companies too. You've read that job description. They tout their Fortune 500 client. They likely have an address in a part of town that you would classify as upscale or maybe techie. Now here in Milwaukee, that's the historic Third Ward, which is an old manufacturing district that has since found new life for tech companies inhabiting the old warehouses and factories. It leads to some pretty cool office spaces, and it's a great combination of modern and retro decor, which is perfect to lure in unsuspecting job seekers. Now, on the surface, this may appear that these companies look like they care about appearances, that they have something like a relaxed dress code, and maybe they have cool perks like company happy hours, and you know what? Heaven forbid that maybe they pay well. That could be amazing. So these companies start ticking the boxes in your head. These big clients, they talk about equal, stable, and profitable business. An office in a good area of town means they like nice things for themselves and likely for their employees as well. And then they drop the hammer on you. You can be in marketing. Oh, marketing is sexy. Marketing is creative and creates something. Marketing is something so many people want to do, and marketing gets renown. As Jessica said, though, the reality is that these are sales positions in disguise. So next, I'm going to read you my response to her, and we'll look at why these companies are to be avoided, and then how to detect them. Now, full disclaimer, as I mentioned before, I had some experience with one of these companies. I went to one of these interviews just to see what it was like. I even told my wife, I said, something smells really wrong here, but I want to make sure that my gut instinct is on. So in the interest of making sure that I, felt when things were wrong, I got on my suit and I went to that interview. We'll talk a little bit about what happened here right now. So I replied to Jessica. I said, the marketing agency companies. I've never wanted to leave an interview faster. I actually terminated the interview 5 minutes after being pitched. My advice to you, take a look at the search terms you're using. Marketing these days has become an almost meaningless word and has, in many cases, really been used in conjunction with or as a replacement for the word sales, which you've clearly experienced. In my city, there are about 5 or 6 of these agencies that are hiring all the time and promising the things you mention. Make a list of these companies. Once you start to recognize their names and taking a look at the job descriptions they offer, you'll eventually develop a nose for the BS that they peddle, which will clue you in to other companies like this. Something you'll want to look for when searching for an agency is their website. Do they have a portfolio of clients and samples of their work that has been done? These companies that masquerade as marketing firms don't have this because they don't actually make ads or art or other marketing type things. Real agencies are proud to show the fantastic portfolio of work that they have on their site. Now, that was the end of the comment because LinkedIn told me I was writing too much, and apparently the limit on number of characters in LinkedIn content is 1,250 characters. But there's a lot more to it, and hey, that's why you're here, right? So as I said, for these type of companies, real agencies and marketing firms always want to brag about the names of the clients they work with and show the work they've done for them. A real marketing agency isn't going to hide behind a descriptor of, quote, a Fortune 500 client. A company that wants you to come work with them in advertising is going to have the names of their clients available through their web portfolio. Now, I did a quick Google search of marketing agencies in Milwaukee as I was writing this, and you can, of course, substitute your own city or wherever you're at, maybe the nearest major city, and except for one of the agencies, which appeared on the surface to be much more digitally oriented than print, things like Facebook ads and things like that, every marketing agency in my major city had a giant link at the top of their website called Our Work, and it was plastered on there showcasing the solutions that they had provided to the companies that they worked with in the past and naming those companies. So that's step one. Fake marketing companies, or sales jobs in disguise, as I like to call them, will not be open about who their clients are in job descriptions. So what else can help us detect these types of jobs? The type of person they say that they're looking